Trump's presidential victory essentially will end the criminal cases brought against him for at least the 4 years that he is in the White House. Trump has been facing 4 simultaneous prosecutions this year over allegations ranging from his attempt to cover up hush money payment to porn star Stormy Daniels to attempting to overturn the 2020 election results. Now, on a federal level, the DOJ did say that they are assessing how to wind down special counsel Jack Smith's 2 criminal cases against Trump due to this long-standing policy that forbids prosecuting a sitting president. But what about on the state level, right? Because Trump still has cases in Georgia and New York. Well, for that, we do want to bring in Jeremy Rosenthal. He's a friend of the show. He's a legal expert to help break all of this down for us. Thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, well, let's start with there's a lot to talk about, but sentencing is scheduled for November 26th in New York for the Stormy Daniels case. Trump's attorneys are set to ask Judge Juan Merchan to delay the sentencing. We've seen this delayed twice already. Given that this would be unprecedented for a president-elect to be sentenced before Inauguration Day, what could the penalty be for Trump? Do we also expect this to be another delay?
It could be any and all of the above. Obviously, we're in unprecedented territory. We've never been in this situation before. The judge has a ton of options at his disposal. The first thing that may happen is on November 12th, he is expected to either essentially affirm the conviction or grant a new trial based on some of the Supreme Court language in the immunity case. In all likelihood, he's going to keep the conviction. Then at sentencing, he can sentence Donald Trump to 20 years and remand him to the custody of the bailiff. He can say, go with the bailiff, you're in custody. Legally, that can happen. I would say that also I can get struck by lightning today or hit by a bus. I give that about the same measure of Donald Trump going into custody. In all likelihood, we're going to see one of 2 things, or potentially 3. Number one, my understanding is that in New York State, the prosecution, or the judge rather, can convict you without sentencing you. Basically hit you on the head with a frying pan, say, get out of my life, you're a felon, now we're done, you can be done here. That's a very big possibility. Another possibility is that the judge abates or pauses any sentence, and while he's abating it, Donald Trump can appeal it in the New York courts. I don't think we see that, for the reason that the appeal would likely come back in the middle of Donald Trump's term. The third option would be probated sentence, which I think is probably the most likely. So what they would do is that Donald Trump would essentially be given probably what you would call a non-reporting probation. He would be able to serve as president, but probation on the felony level can last, in some instances, 5, 6, 7, up to 10 years, which means that when Mr. Trump is done with his term in 2029, that he could have to come back again in front of Judge Merchan. But really, anything could happen.
All right, and how much control or power does Trump have in these state-level cases? Could we expect that maybe they could be just thrown out, like we're seeing with the DOJ announcing that they are going to try to wind those down?
Legally, they're in a bit of a tough spot to do that. In a jury trial, the judge is legally bound to accept the jury's verdict, and they can't just toss it out to toss it out. Now, the federal government, Joe Biden, could not pardon Donald Trump for this New York case. And not only that, if Donald Trump when he takes the oath of office in January, he will not be able to pardon himself on a state level case. The governor of New York could potentially grant him clemency there. But legally speaking, once the jury acts and deliberates and finds him guilty, and then once the judge sentences him, if the judge sentences him, legally you just can't undo it because, oh, well, we just want to undo this. It's a lot stickier than that.
All right, and when it comes to 2028, could they bring these cases back, or do you think by the time we get to that point, this will all just be behind us?
So let's play this out a couple of different ways. Option number one, let's say for argument's sake, and we don't know what Joe Biden's about to say, and probably of the 8 million things on his mind, this is probably down the list. If Donald Trump wins a mandate, which it appears that either he may already have done that, I haven't followed up, Joe Biden could pardon him for the sake of unity of the country, and then we don't have to worry about this issue anymore. We're done. If Donald Trump decides to pardon himself, a lot trickier, certainly would conceivably be litigated, and then we don't know if that works or doesn't work. If Jack Smith winds down these cases, then Donald Trump has some decent speedy trial arguments on the back end if the Justice Department wants to keep going at him. My guess is that these are done one way or the other.
And New York Governor Kathy Hochul, Attorney General Letitia James came out and said they will fight back against any potential revenge or retribution that may be coming now that Trump will be president again. What might that look like from a legal standpoint?
Well, they're going to try to maintain the conviction, right? They're going to try to do what they can do, and maybe we got our answer about the New York clemency, right? And again, still very early. We don't know what types of olive branches may get extended. But it certainly sounds like they're gonna fight to keep that conviction. Now, it's speculative, though. I mean, would Donald Trump take some type of revenge on New York State, and how would that look, right? I don't even know. I mean, that would be funding, or is he not going to declare a national emergency when they think he ought to? Of who knows what that looks like, right? So a lot of that sounds like just sort of political posturing to me. But legally, if the parties are entrenched and if New York State wants to maintain this, then that's certainly their prerogative. That's what we do as a dual sovereignty.
This Fulton County, Georgia case, let's talk about that really quickly. Trump and 8 of his 14 co-defendants in the case are asking a Georgia appeals court to disqualify the lead prosecutor, Fani Willis, over alleged misconduct stemming from, the romantic relationship she had with the former deputy. Those oral arguments are scheduled for December 5th. If that fails, what comes next? And if it doesn't fail, what comes next?
It's a lot like the New York case, right? And this case is super stuck in the mud right now. They're on appeal on this romantic issue. Fani Willis did get reelected this last week, so she's not going anywhere. And yeah, they can try to bring it back. And again, in these instances, it's very extraordinary in the sense that Judge Marchand in New York and Fani Willis in Fulton County, these are not people who were elected or appointed really to look out for the national interest, right? They're elected as a district judge of Manhattan. The person in Donald Trump's case before him may have been a habitual alcoholic and had 7 DWIs or something like that. And now we're dealing with the president of the United States. So the fate of the free world really isn't what you're electing the Fulton County DA for, is it? But yet that's where we find ourselves. And that's going to be some of the pressure that I think that they're going to face. And I think they're going to have some very important decisions to make about the future of the country, in addition to their role as the chief law enforcement officer in those areas. Again, highly unique. And you would just hope that obviously part of their discretion is going to be the national interest.